When prosperity flows from the hand of God, wisdom demands silence. When the season of abundance dawns, when what you once prayed for in solitude begins to manifest before your eyes, that is not the moment for noise or show. That is the moment for reverence. The loudest worship is not always heard in songs or speeches. Sometimes it is found in the quiet discipline of a heart that remembers the source. When the heavens open and your drought turns into a river, when empty hands begin to overflow, stay low. Bow quietly before the giver. When wealth comes from God, you do not boast, you build. You do not parade your blessings, you protect them with wisdom. For many, money becomes a snare, not because wealth itself is evil, but because the heart forgets its direction once it tastes prosperity. The blessing that was meant to lift them becomes the reason they fall. But the wise understand money is not the proof of God. It is His test. It is evidence that heaven has trusted you with something greater than yourself. It is not a certificate of success, but a mirror reflecting maturity. When God grants abundance, He whispers, "I have watched you in the valley. Now let me see you on the mountain." And when that time comes, silence becomes your shield. You must learn to move quietly, because not every applause is pure. Not every smile is sincere. Some will congratulate you publicly, but pray privately for your fall. So God gives His chosen ones a silent spirit when He lifts them. He teaches them the beauty of being hidden even while rising. Do not announce your wealth, let your peace announce it. Do not display your prosperity, let your discipline display it. When God blesses, it is not for the world's eyes, it is for heaven's purpose. There is a time to cry out for provision, a time to fast, to pray, to wait, and then one day doors open, ideas expand. What once was nothing begins to multiply. But hear this truth, the moment of abundance is also the moment of testing. Many can worship God in scarcity, but few can stay humble in overflow. The same God who observed you in need now watches you in plenty. When you had nothing, you were on your knees. But now that your hands are full, do you still bow? When money comes from God, it carries an assignment. Every coin, every opportunity, every open door has purpose attached. Divine provision always arrives with divine instruction. It is not given to glorify you, but to fulfill a heavenly intention through you. Silence then becomes a language of gratitude. When you grow wealthy by the grace of God, your quietness tells heaven, "I am grateful, and I am guarding what you've given me." Not everything blessed must be broadcast. The wise hide their treasures not out of fear, but out of discernment. Because spiritual vultures feed on the noise of the unguarded. The moment you talk too much about your blessing, you open the door for envy to enter. But when you stay silent, God Himself becomes your defense. When God gives you money, never make it your master. Let it remain your servant. Do not let wealth speak louder than your worship, nor luxury silence your prayer. For the true danger of riches is not in possession, but in pride. The same hands that once begged God for help can become the hands that forget Him. But those who remain humble, quiet, and wise become channels of divine increase. God continues to pour into them because their hearts never worship what their hands hold. Silence in seasons of divine wealth is not emptiness, it is order. It is the posture of a soul that understands timing and trust. When God blesses you, He also observes how you handle noise. whether you will use your voice to glorify Him or to glorify yourself. Prosperity without discipline is like rain without soil. It runs off, never taking root. Discipline is what gives shape to blessings, what turns random increase into enduring fruit. Do not be deceived by the illusion of speed. Many rise fast, but few rise with foundation. And when the wind of life comes, what is built on noise collapses, but what is built on quiet conviction stands unshaken. When money comes from God, it demands maturity. For divine resources are never given for display. They are entrusted for duty. The higher you climb, the deeper your roots must go, because abundance without humility becomes arrogance in disguise. Do not mistake divine favor for personal superiority. When God prospers you, He is not announcing that you are greater. He is revealing that you are trusted. Trusted to feed, to build, to heal, to give. The discipline of prosperity is the discipline of remembrance. To remember where you came from, to remember who answered your cry when the world was silent, to remember that the same God who lifted you can humble you again. Silence is not weakness. It is the strength to resist the urge to prove your blessing to those who doubted you. It is the grace to rise without resentment, to succeed without revenge, to prosper without pride. When your cup overflows, do not shout about the cup, honor the source, because the purpose of overflow is not to drown in luxury, but to pour into the thirsty. Every time you give without boasting, every time you bless quietly, heaven takes notice. When God gives you money, He is not only increasing your capacity, He is testing your character. He watches how you handle little, then observes how you behave with much. He measures your silence, your gratitude, your restraint. Do not let success make you noisy. Noise is often the insecurity of new prosperity, the need to prove that you have arrived. But true wealth walks softly. It doesn't need an audience, it carries its own authority. Let your peace speak louder than your possessions. Let your composure become your crown. Let your humility remain your most expensive garment. You see, not every blessing needs to be seen. Some blessings are meant to be protected in stillness. Because when you move quietly, your enemies become confused. They cannot attack what they cannot locate. When you are prospering in silence, your fruits will speak for you. Your peace will testify. Your balance will reveal that your wealth came from above. For there is a kind of money that builds your house, but breaks your home, that grows your business, but shrinks your peace. But the money that comes from God carries tranquility within it. It builds without burden. It enlarges without ego. Learn to walk with your blessing as you once walked in your brokenness, softly, prayerfully, with gratitude. Because the God who gave it is still watching how you use it. When money comes from heaven, remember it is not ownership, it is stewardship. You are not the source, you are the channel. What flows through you is meant to touch others. If you block the flow with pride, the stream will dry. So remain a vessel, open, clean, and silent. For when a vessel makes too much noise, it often means it is empty. The full ones simply carry the water quietly, faithfully, and with reverence. Every blessing from God carries within it a hidden examination, a test unseen by human eyes, but watched closely by heaven. For what poverty conceals, prosperity reveals. Scarcity hides the heart, abundance exposes it. When you were struggling, you prayed with passion. You woke before dawn, fasting, weeping, begging for breakthrough. But now that you have arrived, when the door is open, when the hunger is gone, does your heart still tremble at the sound of His name? Wealth is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of responsibility. It is not a medal for endurance. It is a measure of stewardship. God gives not to inflate the ego, but to reveal the soul. Because when your hands are full, your posture will show whether you still bow. The true danger of prosperity is forgetfulness. When the river flows steadily, the memory of thirst fades. When the table is full, gratitude becomes optional. And so, the very abundance that should have deepened your worship can instead dilute it. Do not allow success to rewrite your story. Never let new garments make you forget the dust from which you came. God does not mind that you sit among kings. He only asks that you never forget the shepherd who found you in the field. The test of wealth is subtle. It does not come through hardship, but through comfort. It whispers, not shouts. It says, "You have earned this." It tempts you to believe that your wisdom, your effort, your strategy were the reason heaven favored you. But those who know God deeply understand grace cannot be earned. Favor cannot be explained. Mercy cannot be bought. They kneel even when crowned, for they know that without God's hand, no crown would exist. When money comes from God, it carries two spirits, the spirit of blessing and the spirit of testing. If you pass the test, your wealth becomes a ministry. If you fail it, your wealth becomes a monument to your pride. Character is the currency of heaven. Without it, every other currency loses value. And so God will often give you prosperity to see what remains sacred in you. He will place power in your hands to reveal whether your heart is still soft. If money magnifies arrogance, it was not truly a blessing. It was a mirror. If prosperity erases compassion, it was never wealth. It was warning. For true riches are not measured by possession, but by posture. You are rich when success makes you softer, not harder. You are wealthy when having more makes you give more. When God elevates you, remain grounded. For the higher the tree grows, the deeper its roots must go, lest the wind of pride uproot what grace has planted. Never let luxury become your language. Speak always in humility, even when dressed in honor. Let people see gold around your wrist, but grace upon your lips. Let them find wealth in your hand, but worship in your voice. This is how heaven knows that prosperity did not poison you. That money did not mute your prayer. When God blesses you, do not rewrite the altar into an office. Keep your knees familiar with the ground. Keep your tears alive. Keep your voice soft toward heaven. Because God does not bless to make you independent. He blesses to make you more dependent. He gives you the means so you can serve His meaning. He fills your hands so you can fulfill His heart. Remember, money is a tool, not a throne. If you place it under your feet, it will carry you. If you place it above your heart, it will crush you. The greatest tragedy of prosperity is to gain the world and lose your wonder. To be able to buy everything, but no longer kneel for anything. But the wise know the most valuable wealth is not in the vault, but in the soul. It is the peace that cannot be purchased, the contentment that cannot be counted, and the faith that no fortune can replace. Wealth from heaven is never without purpose. When God opens the windows of abundance, He does not do it merely to decorate your life. He does it to expand His kingdom through your hands. Blessing is not ownership, it is stewardship. It is not yours. It is through you. For when God entrusts you with prosperity, He is saying, I have found in you a vessel I can trust with my resources. But to remain a vessel, you must remember that flow is life. If the water that once passed through the pipe begins to settle within it, stagnation begins. In the same way, when money meant for impact becomes locked in pride or fear, its divine current stops, and heaven looks for another vessel. The wisdom of stewardship is not in how much you hold, but in how faithfully you handle what you are given. True stewardship requires three virtues: gratitude, discipline, and purpose. Gratitude keeps your heart humble. Discipline keeps your hands clean. Purpose keeps your path straight. Gratitude reminds you that the source of your success is not self, but grace. Discipline reminds you to spend wisely, to live within reason, to avoid vanity. Purpose reminds you that wealth is a mission, not a monument. Every resource given by God has an assignment attached. There is no random favor. There is no accidental increase. If heaven has increased your capacity, it is because there is a divine project waiting for your obedience. The wealth of the righteous has work to do. It is meant to clothe the naked, feed the hungry, heal the broken, and build what the world destroyed. It is meant to educate, to empower, to elevate, to enlighten. Money from God carries mercy within it. It was never meant to end with you. When you use divine provision selfishly, you build temporary comfort. But when you use it selflessly, you build eternal legacy. The houses of men will crumble, but the lives you touch will echo in eternity. Remember, God does not bless waste. He multiplies only what is managed. If you cannot organize your increase, you will watch it escape through disorder. For abundance without order is the beginning of poverty in disguise. Many pray for more while mismanaging what they already have. But heaven does not promote chaos. It rewards consistency. When you handle a little faithfully, God sends much naturally. The ladder of stewardship is not climbed by asking, but by proving. True prosperity is quiet discipline in motion. It is the wisdom to invest rather than impress. It is the patience to build slowly rather than boast quickly. It is the maturity to sow before you spend and to bless before you brag. Stewardship also means protecting your blessing with discretion. You do not expose what God has trusted you to guard. There is wisdom in privacy, for not every eye rejoices in your abundance. Sometimes the silence that surrounds your wealth is what keeps it sacred. Understand this: you are not called to be a collector of gold. You are called to be a channel of grace. If money rests in your hands but not in your heart, it will serve its purpose. But if it rests in your heart, it will corrupt its purpose. Be like a river that receives from the mountains and pours into the valleys. Never hold back the flow of what was meant to move. Your generosity keeps heaven's current alive. And when you give silently. Let your left hand remain innocent of what your right hand has done. For in the quiet of generosity, God Himself becomes your witness. He who sees in secret rewards in seasons. Remember, wealth without wisdom becomes a weapon, but wealth governed by divine purpose becomes worship. And worship is what keeps wealth holy. When you handle prosperity as a sacred trust, heaven keeps pouring. But when you turn it into self-praise, the flow begins to fade. For God resists the proud, but gives more grace to the humble, even in matters of finance and favor. So, use what you have with reverence. Manage what you've been given with vision. and walk softly among your blessings, for every coin you touch has come from a king. There is a sacred beauty in being hidden even while you rise. The word teaches you to announce every step, to display every blessing, to prove your value by showing your visibility. But heaven teaches the opposite, that greatness kept in silence grows stronger than greatness shouted in pride. When success comes quietly, it comes with peace. But when success becomes performance, it loses purity. The greatest proof that God is with you is not how loudly you shine, but how deeply you stay humble while shining. Hidden success is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing that what grows underground first grows unshaken later. A tree that rushes to be seen soon falls to the wind. But the one that grows in secret develops roots no storm can uproot. When God begins to bless you, resist the urge to explain it to everyone. Not all will understand the language of divine timing. Some will misread your miracle as manipulation, your favor as fortune, your blessing as betrayal. But you do not owe anyone an explanation for what heaven has written. Silence is your safest witness. Let your peace do the talking. Let your growth speak through results, not responses. Let your fruit prove your favor. When success is pure, it needs no stage. It shines even in private places. Because true greatness does not seek attention, it serves purpose. And the one who can handle hidden success is the one God can trust with public influence. If you learn to stay humble in secret, heaven will honor you in sight. But if you boast in secret, heaven will humble you in public. For God resists the proud not because He despises them, but because pride interrupts the flow of grace. Humility is the garment of the anointed. It is the invisible robe that keeps glory from becoming poison. Without it, even divine success turns into self-destruction. The higher you rise, the quieter you must become. Noise attracts envy. Silence attracts grace. Noise provokes imitation. Silence protects authenticity. Noise celebrates the gift. Silence honors the giver. When you are truly blessed, you do not need to say much. Your peace, your calm, your contentment, these are the marks of divine elevation. A loud life often reveals a restless spirit, but a peaceful soul is the true proof of prosperity. Learn to succeed like the morning, gentle, gradual, and glowing without noise. The dawn does not announce itself, it simply arrives, and the world recognizes it by its light, not its sound. Likewise, let your life glow with quiet excellence. Let your diligence become your declaration. Let your integrity become your influence. Let your humility become your headline. For the world measures success by visibility, but heaven measures it by virtue. The world crowns those who perform. Heaven crowns those who persevere. The world claps for those who speak. Heaven rewards those who serve. Remember this sacred truth. When your success is loud, people praise you. When your success is silent, God promotes you. Hidden success also protects your peace, because what remains unseen remains unharmed. The fewer eyes that know, the fewer voices that curse. That is why many of God's blessings are disguised, so that only those meant to partake may perceive them. Do not despise the seasons when God hides you. They are not seasons of delay. They are seasons of preservation. He hides His treasures not to deny them, but to develop them. And when the time is right, He reveals them in strength, not in noise. So, embrace the grace of being unseen. Celebrate the quiet victories. Cherish the closed doors that kept you from premature exposure. For the diamond does not demand display while being refined. It waits. And when it shines, it needs no announcement. Its brilliance speaks. That is how heaven works. God will polish you in private before presenting you in public. And those who doubted your silence will one day see the glory of your stillness. For in the kingdom, humility is not the opposite of greatness. It is the foundation of it. The lower you bow, the higher He lifts you. And the more quietly you walk, the more clearly He is seen. Boasting is the language of forgetfulness. Gratitude is the language of remembrance. One glorifies the self, the other magnifies God. And between the two lies the difference between keeping a blessing and losing it. Every time God lifts a man, heaven watches what comes out of his mouth, for words reveal worship. Some speak to boast, others speak to bless. The sound may be the same, but the spirit behind it makes all the difference. Boasting is a seed, and every seed bears fruit. When you plant pride, you will reap humiliation. But when you sow gratitude, you will harvest multiplication. Gratitude sustains what pride destroys. The danger of boasting is not only that it offends heaven, it also invites the envy of men. When you speak too loudly of what you have, you awaken hearts that wish you didn't have it. You draw eyes that were never meant to look your way. That is why the wise stay quiet. They understand that the loudest gratitude is not spoken, it is shown. It is found in how you use your blessing, not how you advertise it. Gratitude is not a speech, it is a posture. When God blesses you, He does not expect a performance. He expects remembrance. He does not need your announcement. He desires your acknowledgement. He wants your life to echo the truth that all this came from Him. Boasting turns blessings into burdens. Because once you make your success about yourself, you become responsible for maintaining what only God can sustain. But when you stay grateful, you give the weight back to God. And He continues to carry what He began. A grateful heart is like fertile soil. Whatever falls into it multiplies. The thankful soul never lacks, for heaven finds joy in pouring more upon those who remember the source. Boasting, however, breaks the divine rhythm. It shifts focus from the Creator to the creature, from the miracle to the man. And when that happens, the flow of favor pauses. God will not compete with the pride of His creation. Remember, the moment you think you are the reason for your rise, you begin your fall. The higher you climb, the smaller you must see yourself, because pride always dies when seen from the right height. Gratitude is not only saying, "Thank you." It is living in a way that reflects thankfulness. It is using what you have to bless others. It is refusing to forget the days of hunger, even while dining in abundance. Let your wealth carry worship within it. Let your prosperity preach silently. If it had not been for the Lord on my side, I would not be here. True gratitude is quiet confidence in God's goodness. It does not need to prove. It does not need to parade. It simply acknowledges with reverence and continues in obedience. Boasting is noise, gratitude is harmony. Boasting tries to convince, gratitude simply confirms. Boasting demands attention, gratitude attracts grace. When you are truly thankful, your focus shifts from possession to purpose. You begin to see that your wealth is not a trophy but a trust. That your success is not a stage but a stewardship, and that every open door is an invitation to glorify God, not yourself. Gratitude also protects your peace. Because when you give God the credit, You no longer live under the pressure of proving your worth. You rest in the assurance that grace brought you here, and grace will keep you here. When the heart is grateful, the hand becomes generous. For thankfulness naturally overflows into giving. It is impossible to truly thank God and hoard what He has given. Every act of generosity is a quiet sermon of gratitude. So, speak less and serve more. Talk less and give more. For your actions will always testify louder than your claims. And remember this sacred truth: boasting feeds pride, gratitude fuels peace. Boasting ends the blessing, gratitude extends it. Boasting invites man's attention, gratitude invites God's presence. Therefore, when money comes from heaven, wrap your success in silence, tie it with gratitude, and place it back before the giver. For that is the only way to keep it holy. The greatest challenge of divine prosperity is not earning it. It is keeping your worship alive while holding it. For money in the hand is harmless, but money in the heart becomes a rival to God. It is possible to be wealthy and still holy. It is possible to sit in abundance and still bow in humility. But it requires balance, the sacred equilibrium between holding and honoring, between managing and worshiping. Worship must always remain greater than wealth, because worship is eternal while wealth is seasonal. What you adore will always determine what you attract. If you adore gold, you will chase it. If you adore God, gold will chase you. The balance begins with perspective. Money is a servant, not a savior. It can build hospitals but not heal hearts. It can purchase homes but not create peace. It can buy companionship but not true love. It can fund education but not grant wisdom. It is useful, but it is not ultimate. When God blesses you, He does not expect you to hate money. He expects you to master it, to handle it without being handled by it, to control it without letting it control you. The balance of wealth and worship is found in remembering the source. Every time you succeed, whisper to yourself, "This came from Him." Every time you receive, remind yourself, "I am a steward, not a source." That single sentence can keep your soul safe from the corruption of pride. You see, prosperity was never meant to replace prayer. In fact, the more you prosper, the more you must pray, because wealth multiplies options, and options can become distractions. Without prayer, direction turns into confusion. Without worship, abundance turns into arrogance. When you keep God at the center, wealth remains a blessing. But when you replace God with gold, wealth becomes a burden. The rich man who forgets heaven carries the heaviest poverty of all, the poverty of peace. Money is loud. It will call you to spend, to show, to shine. But worship is gentle. It whispers, "Be still and know that I am God." Learn to listen to the whisper over the noise. Because in every season of abundance, there is always a temptation to drift, to trade devotion for distraction, to exchange the secret place for the spotlight. Guard your altar more fiercely in prosperity than you did in poverty. When your schedule fills and your hands are busy counting, make sure your heart is still bending in reverence. Wealth without worship becomes weight. It burdens the soul, it blinds the eyes, it deafens the conscience. But when wealth flows through worship, it becomes light, a tool for building, a means of blessing, a song of service. Keep the flame of prayer alive in your prosperity. Let success never silence your dependence. For the moment you stop needing God, you start losing Him. And every empire built without Him eventually collapses under its own pride. Remember, worship is not only the lifting of hands, it is the lowering of the heart. It is not only songs on the lips, it is surrender in the soul. You worship when you manage your wealth with integrity. You worship when you give without seeking applause. You worship when you walk in humility, though surrounded by honor. If you can remain broken before God while blessed before men, you have mastered the balance of wealth and worship. The test of prosperity is not in what you gain, it is in what you refuse to lose. And the greatest thing you must never lose is your intimacy with God. So let your worship rise higher than your income. Let your gratitude grow deeper than your bank account. And let your dependence on God become stronger than your dependence on gold. For when the day ends and all that glitters fades, it will not be the wealth you kept that matters, but the worship you maintained. Every blessing that comes from heaven carries a hidden instruction. Do not keep it all. For divine wealth was never meant to stagnate, it was meant to circulate. It is not ownership that multiplies it. It is outflow. The moment you begin to give, you begin to grow, because giving is not subtraction, it is multiplication in disguise. The world calls it loss, but heaven calls it investment. In the economy of God, seeds leave your hand only to meet you again in another form, enlarged, enriched, and eternal. There are seasons of giving, sacred moments when heaven observes what you do with what you have. Some are called to give when it is easy, others when it is painful. But the true giver is the one who gives not because he must, but because he remembers. He remembers the days when he had little and how mercy sustained him. He remembers that all he has is borrowed breath wrapped in divine grace. Giving keeps the heart soft. It prevents gold from hardening into greed. It reminds the soul that it was never the source. When you give, you remind creation who the Creator is. And yet the world often misunderstands giving. It teaches that generosity makes you weaker. But heaven knows the open hand is the strongest hand of all, because it is free from the chains of possession. Do not wait to give until you have more. Give when it costs you something. For the weight of your gift is not measured in amount, but in sacrifice. The widow's coin outweighed the wealthy man's chest because her heart was heavier with faith than his hands were with gold. To give is to trust. To give is to tell God, I know you will refill what I release. Every generous act is a declaration of faith that heaven's supply never runs dry. The selfish man hoards and fears tomorrow. The generous man gives and sees tomorrow provided. Because in the kingdom, the flow never stops for the one who keeps it moving. When you withhold what was meant to be shared, you interrupt your own increase. The river that refuses to flow becomes a swamp. But the stream that keeps moving stays clear, alive, and refreshed. Giving purifies wealth. It cleanses the soul from pride and the heart from attachment. Each time you give, you untie another knot that money tried to make around your spirit. But giving must remain silent. It must never become theater. For the moment generosity turns into performance, its reward shifts from heaven to applause. Let your left hand remain ignorant of what your right hand does, so that your gift may carry fragrance unseen, but felt by heaven. True giving is worship disguised as kindness. It is not about showing compassion, it is about sharing communion. Because in giving, you participate in the divine nature. You become like God, who gives without expecting repayment. Do not measure your giving by numbers, Measure it by obedience. Sometimes heaven asks for your gold, other times for your time, your patience, your forgiveness. To give mercy when you were wronged is greater than to give money when you are rich. Because love is the highest currency in the kingdom. There is also wisdom in giving. Not every soil deserves your seed. Sow where purpose is planted, not where attention is demanded. Give where fruit will grow, not where noise will echo. For even generosity must have discernment, lest you waste what was meant to multiply. The secret of multiplication lies in the posture of the heart. When you give with pride, it ends at the hand. But when you give with humility, it begins at the throne. And what touches the throne never returns empty. Every act of hidden generosity opens unseen doors. Every tearful offering writes invisible stories of redemption. Every silent sacrifice is recorded in eternal memory. Heaven never forgets what the humble hand releases. So keep giving, not for recognition, but for relationship. Give not because you have much, but because you remember how much you were given. Let your generosity become your gratitude in motion. For the secret of divine increase is this: whatever you release for God, God replaces with Himself. And what He gives in return is always greater than what you gave away. Not just in wealth, but in wisdom. Not just in riches, but in rest. Not just in possessions, but in peace. Every soul that walks with God must one day walk through His silence. For silence is not His absence. It is His examination. It is the holy pause between blessing and breakthrough, where heaven waits to see whether your faith is built on gifts or on the giver. There comes a time when the stream slows, when doors close, when the familiar voice that guided you grows quiet. And in that stillness, many hearts grow restless. They begin to question, has God forgotten me? But He has not. He is observing. Silence is the classroom of the mature. It is where God hides to see who will still seek Him. It is where He steps back, not to abandon, but to measure the depth of your devotion when the applause has faded. Every blessing must be tested, not because God doubts you, but because He desires to trust you more. Testing reveals not what God needs to know, but what you need to see. It exposes what you love most, what you fear most, and what still competes for His throne in your heart. When the flow of provision slows, when the favor that once surrounded you seems to vanish, when the people you helped no longer remember you, these are not signs of rejection, but invitations to reflection. God's silence often hides His strategy. He pauses the supply to purify the source. He delays the visible to develop the invisible. He tests your patience to strengthen your purpose. Many lose the blessing not in scarcity, but in reaction. They panic, they complain. They let fear speak where faith should have remained silent. But wisdom learns to trust quietly. Because even when heaven is silent, grace is still working in the background. The wise know that silence is sacred. They understand that when heaven is quiet, it is gathering. The same God who withdrew His voice from Job later spoke through a whirlwind. The same God who hid from Joseph in the prison later revealed Himself in the palace. The same God who seemed silent on the cross was preparing resurrection on the third day. So never mistake divine silence for divine absence. When God hides, He is not gone. He is guarding something precious. He is allowing your roots to grow deeper before the next storm, your spirit to grow quieter before the next revelation. Do not rush to speak when heaven is silent. because your reaction during the test determines your readiness for the reward. Silence is not punishment, it is promotion in disguise. It is the unseen proof that you have reached a level where noise no longer teaches you. In the silence, faith learns to breathe without sound. It learns to walk without sight, to trust without touch. That is when faith matures from emotion to conviction. When God pauses, do not fill the gap with fear. Fill it with worship. Keep doing what He last told you to do. Keep serving where He last planted you. Keep trusting even when the light seems dim. Because obedience in silence is louder than worship in success. Testing seasons separate lovers of blessing from lovers of God. Anyone can praise during prosperity, but only the faithful can worship in waiting. And that is why heaven pauses to refine your praise until it no longer depends on proof. The silence of God is never empty, it is full of purpose. Behind it, angels are arranging, doors are aligning, timing is perfecting, and hearts are being prepared. You just cannot hear the symphony yet because heaven plays softly when it writes eternity. So rest in the silence. Let it shape you, not shake you. Do not let temporary quiet make you forget permanent promises. He who was faithful in the light is still faithful in the dark. Wait well. For when the silence ends, it always ends with revelation. And when the test concludes, it always concludes with elevation. Heaven's pauses are not endings. They are intervals between chapters. And when the next one begins, you will understand that even His quietness was kindness. For the silence of testing does not come to take something from you. It comes to prepare you for something greater than you asked for. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when striving must cease and gratitude must begin. It is the holy turning point where you stop counting what is missing and start cherishing what remains. That moment is called contentment, the quiet crown of the wise. Contentment is not the absence of desire, it is the mastery of it. It is knowing that you could have more, yet choosing to rest in what God has already given. It is not a lack of ambition, but the presence of alignment. For when your heart aligns with heaven, you realize that peace is a greater treasure than prosperity, and joy is a deeper wealth than gold. Many spend their lives chasing what they already possess, seeking happiness while standing in blessings too familiar to be noticed. They pray for new miracles while ignoring the ones breathing quietly beside them, the gift of breath, the warmth of family, the strength to stand, the grace to start again. Contentment is the art of seeing God in the ordinary. It is worship that whispers, "This is enough because you are enough." The crown of contentment is worn by those who have seen both sides, the hunger of lack and the heaviness of plenty, and have learned that neither defines joy. They know that having everything without peace is still poverty, and having little with peace is still wealth. True contentment is born from remembrance. It looks back at the roads once traveled, the prayers once whispered through tears, the fears that once ruled the heart, and realizes, I have come this far not by luck, but by grace. It smiles at yesterday's storms, not because they were easy, but because they revealed how faithful God truly is. Contentment is not passive. It is powerful. It silences comparison, heals envy, and calms greed. It teaches the restless heart that no addition can improve what is already perfect in purpose. The man who is content cannot be manipulated. He cannot be bought by applause or broken by loss. He walks free because he no longer measures his worth by his wallet. His joy is rooted in something eternal, and his peace cannot be priced. Every blessing becomes richer when received with contentment. Every meal becomes a feast when seasoned with gratitude. Every small moment becomes sacred when viewed through the lens of enough. Rest is not found in accumulation, but in appreciation. The restless build empires and still feel empty. The content build altars and feel full. Do not rush through your current season searching for the next. Every stage of life carries its own fragrance of grace. The single learn trust, the married learn surrender, the wealthy learn stewardship, the poor learn faith. In each, God hides a revelation of himself. To live content is to live aware, to wake each day not asking, what more? But whispering, thank you. It is to let gratitude replace ambition as the rhythm of your soul. For when your heart is full, no possession can make it fuller. And when your heart is empty, no possession can fill it. Peace is an inside work, and only heaven can perform it. The crown of contentment shines brightest in humility. It sits lightly on those who walk slowly, speak kindly, and live gratefully. They do not chase applause, they create quiet. They do not hunger for recognition, they hunger for righteousness. When you reach contentment, you realize that you were never missing anything. You were simply learning how to see. And when you finally see, you discover that the same God who gives also satisfies. So wear your crown quietly. Walk in your portion with peace. Smile at the simplicity of life, for contentment is the final stage of divine wealth. The wealth that cannot be stolen, taxed, or lost. It is the wealth of rest, the wealth of gratitude, the wealth of knowing that you already have enough because you have God. And when you reach that understanding, you no longer need to chase blessings, for you have become one